Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, guys, I wanted to make another video where we could talk about more about the general issues and the problems. So several issues that students face when they are creating the system. I have experienced in the past few days. Students have come across Telegram and showing all these kinds of errors. So let us have a look at some example things that can be done to solve things around. Okay, so you can see here. First of all, I advise everyone to use this link here as the way to create your projects. This way you are going to have Laravel 8.0. So we have a little bit of issues. Laravel 8 projects create some problems, and Laravel 7 is how we have created our initial videos, and there are some differences in the way they work and the way they for example, models itself has a separate dedicated folder now. So some students are finding it difficult to understand what is happening there, so if you are having Laravel 8, what will happen is your include statement, your use statements are going to have a little bit differences. So you have to be able to understand them and follow accordingly. I mean, there is a little bit of basic knowledge where you have to know, for example, this is the folder where the models are. Customer.php is a model, user.php is a model, room.php is a model, and when you look for it, it is not there. It is in the room folder, it is in the app slash models folder. So you should know this is the path, not app dot slash hotel.php. So students have come across these kind of issues. Okay, so whenever you are creating a project, or if you are not create a project, use this link here. This is the standard way to create. This way you will have a Laravel 8.0 project, and or you can use this method. Okay, so the idea is you give you a Laravel version, force it to 8.0 from today onwards. Do your assignment also in 8.0. Okay, always use the latest method, latest project, latest framework version. That will going to give you more knowledge, and you will be more up to date. Okay, so another important issue is WAMP, XAMPP, all these issues. I was making the video using WAMP, so I don't know why students wanted to install XAMPP. If you have XAMPP, that's fine. WAMP or XAMPP works, but the problem is now you have XAMPP and you are having problems setting up, and this is going to add extra energy onto our discussion, because we have to find out solution for those who are using XAMPP. So either way, remember, XAMPP or WAMP, they are just a setup that you are adding to make sure you have a web server. Even if you don't have web server, if you have PHP installed with PHP artisan serve, it will actually create a temporary web server in your system, where you will be able to create a project and run it in your web server. So you have to make sure you can actually create projects and run it. That's why we created WAMP server and XAMPP file. Both WAMP server and XAMPP server is going to install MySQL, Apache. They are going to give you a window where you can run your project. So the reason is to set up an Apache folder, to have an Apache setup where you will be able to run your project. That's why we install WAMP. But that is not related to Laravel, because Laravel altogether is a different project, different framework, not WAMP or XAMPP, not related to WAMP or XAMPP. So you are installing WAMP and XAMPP because you will have Apache to run a web server. It's running on port 80. Now some students have never installed WAMP server in their life, so this is understandable, because this is the first time you're coming across web trying to create these things. So I would say this introductory period, it will come to pass. You have to pass through that in order to install it. For me, I think this is fourth week, and it's if you are still struggling installing WAMP server, XAMPP server, you are not making any progress. So you have not put enough energy into this. Okay, that's what I would say. Is your personal time you have to spend to learn these things. I can't give you a bypass link. I can't bypass the learning curve for you. So if you have little gaps in the knowledge, you have to fill them up by studying more, by spending more time yourself to learn more. Okay, guys, there is no bypass. So if your web server doesn't work, for example, your WAMP is not running properly, but you have installed WAMP or XAMPP and your server is not working properly, just do PHP artisan serve in the command prompt in the server folder. When you are in Visual Studio, here you can run control tilde, here you can run PHP artisan serve, and it will temporarily open a website where you can see your project. Okay, so here we have some examples now. So we were having HDC theme park project where we were trying to create some examples, and we created the hotel, room, and customer. And in your case, you have seen, for example, Some of the issues that students face, we will go through them. Number one, when you create a view, when you create a page, as I said in the last time, you have inputs. Every input has a name. This variable name should be the same as what you want to receive, because this is the variable you are receiving in your controller. It has to be the same name as the database. Remember, now you should understand, it doesn't have to be the same as the database column name. The reason why you are making it this way is because it's easier to handle them. So if you give them a different name, that's fine, but you just have to remember in the controller when you are receiving the data. So this is create page. When you are in the create page, you are trying to get the data on the controller. Let's go to customer controller. Here in the customer controller, when you are receiving data on your store method, see this method here, you are receiving them. See, so in order to receive the values, you have to have correct values configured on the view. You are receiving these values from the request variable. So request name, request id number, request phone number. This is the reason why you have given the same name. Now if you have given a different name, of course, see, you can just enter here that name and it will properly get the item into the database column. So you have to understand what is happening there. There is a view, a web page where I am getting some variables, and those variables are here in the store method coming through the request. Okay, in the request array you have these variables, so you are accessing them in order to assign them into your database. So that you should know, very simple. Okay, now in the controllers also sometimes students are facing these problems. If you are using a class, for example, let's say you are using customer, this is called the customer class, right? So the customer class is where the customer class is created. Here in the models there's a dedicated folder. In the level 8 you have a dedicated folder for models. So here you have to include this statement. If you are using this class customer hotels inside your project, like redirect, for some students redirect like this didn't work, and use db didn't work, so you have to include the whole facade link in the project file. So I can't give you solution for all different types of errors. You have to google yourself and also try to work around. So sometimes what will happen is, if you have not included the line, will say undefined variable customer class not found, something like that. So you have to include it, the link. Yeah, use app dash model customer, these models. If you miss this, is going to be a problem. In my video, for example, I don't have this because I was using a different version of Laravel when I created those videos, so it was different little bit. And now you have Laravel 8, so you have to include this folder. Remember about that. I told you guys the customer class is here in the app folder, so it means now you should already know in the app folder I have models here. So if I am including any model, it has to be like this. It can't be app slash customer. It has to have models folder as well. So those kind of things you should be able to navigate yourself effectively after watching the videos. Okay, so if you are skipping the videos or you are not watching the videos, I'm sorry guys, you're not going to make progress. You have to sit, watch the videos, see what's happening, understand what is index method, what are we sending here, how are we sending the data into the index page. Those things you should remember. See, for example, I have here customers. When I create customers, when I click customers, I'm seeing this customer table. Where is this coming from? See, this is the index method. In the index method you have customer variables. You are retrieving them from the database and sending it into the view. See, this is a view customer.index, and that's why we are able to see them. Just like that, when you are creating a folder, you are creating a customer. See, add a customer, it takes you into this page, but it has nothing because you are sending nothing. Yeah, just it's a page. Okay, what you are trying to create a new customer. Therefore you will fill a form, and when you fill this form, again as I said, there will be variables given to this. Each of these boxes are going to have a name, so they will have a name there. So you have to find out from the name that for example, customer underscore id number, customer name, customer underscore phone number. Those variables numbers should match, names should match in in the controller. So you are receiving them into the store variable, validating them, checking if the customer exists or not. If not, we are going to store the customer into the database, and you have to follow along, and all the lines should be there. For example, if you forgot this line, it will not save into the database. Now, even with these lines, there can be issues because this is many, every environment is different, every students might have different issues. So we have to find out what's happening here. This is what programming is about. You create some things, it doesn't work, you find out why it does not work and solve it. This is what it is about. Anyway, so it comes to the store method and gets saved into the database. So that is from here. Now if you're trying to edit someone, see for example, edit someone, here you click in edit button. See, and this edit button will not work unless you have given the proper URL. Those things you should remember. Look at down here, over here you'll see edit URL has slash customer slash one dot edit. This is the ID of the customer followed by edit. You click this edit, it takes you into this page. How am I able to get this data? You're getting this data because in the edit variable you have here, in the edit method you have here customer. Which customer are you editing? You know the customer. See, that's why you are sending it into this edit page, this customer variable, and it is able to display the information about the customer. Again, when you click update, it comes back with to the update function, and then you are validating again, and then you are creating the customer data again, updating them. If you want, you can update one item, two items, depending on how the requirement is. Of course, in this case we are updating everything, right? If you are not allowing the customer ID to be changed, in reality you could allow, but it's better not to allow, because if you are adding a different customer, then a different customer will have a different ID card number. There is no reason why ID card number should be edited. So you can disable this. For example, in my case I have allowed it, but I think the best way is to disable that, because customer with a different ID card number is a different customer. You have to delete that customer and add a new customer. I remember some students have done that, so that is good. So update function is where it comes back and you are saving back into the database. And again, after updating, what should we do? You see, everything is detailed step by step. So after updating, where should I take the customer next? You have to give these instructions. Again, the way you write this is important. Let's say you wrote here return view. If you just say return view, then you will not have the variables, because when you are returning index for index path, then if you return, and let's say return customer.index, you're going to have problem, because then you will not have these variables. See, you will not have these variables in the index method. Customer.index cannot work without customers, so you can't just return it. You have to say reroute, you have to redirect. Okay, you have to reroute the customer, or you have to redirect the customer into another this view. Rerouting means it will actually trigger the create method, index method, not send him directly into the page. So these kind of tips you should remember. And again, now if someone might see from another tutorial or from internet, they are in a different way to reroute. Don't worry, it's the same. You're just rerouting. So reroute can be used with a reroute function or reroute facade, or in a different way. So you have many different ways to redirect the user to a different page, for example. So those are normal things. You should always understand those things. Okay, so for the room, for the hotel, and for the customer, these things should work fine, and you must be able to make it work that way. Now on the database side, some issues students are facing is when they are creating the customer database, for example, and then trying to migrate, they come up with some issues. So there also you could actually research the internet and solve those problems. In the hotels class, for example, there's only one variable and say string variable, didn't create much problem. But if it does create a problem, then you have to remember you have to solve them by searching through the internet a little bit to try and find out issues. Let me try to show you an example of some of the issues, some other issues that you might actually come across when you are creating these kind of pages with integers. Sometimes what happens is if you have a different class with a string variable, let's say ID number as integer, is going to create a problem, because there is already an integer variable here which is taking the primary key field. Then you give another value called integer, then it might actually think that this you are trying to create another primary key field. So these kind of things you should remember to research a little bit and find out why it's happening and solve them. For example, is that integer field an auto increment field or not, that you have to mention. So those kind of things might create a little bit of issues here and there. What I want you to do is, I don't want you to stop. I want you to try and try and try to come up with your solution, so that by this week, this is fourth week, and if you haven't done any progress on this by fourth week, I don't think you will be able to finish your assignment, guys. It's that serious. So I want you to open up your Visual Studio Code. If you haven't installed these things, get it installed. Few students came to me, they haven't installed VM server until this is fourth week. You haven't done any videos, you haven't watched any videos. What are you doing? So this is really really interesting. So I know you are busy and you have other stuff to do, you have a lot of other subjects, but don't wait. These things don't come cheap. You are having a nice module in this semester, and I want you to learn it as much as you can. Companies are looking for these skills, and you need to have these skills, and these are great skills to have. We have software companies nowadays running, and they are looking for people with good level skills, good skills on the web front end and web back end. And this is skills you can learn yourself without even coming to the class. There are people who knows web designing and web skills and web development much better than any of us, and they haven't done a degree to achieve that. They just did hard work to spend time on learning it. Now don't get me wrong, everyone passes the learning curve. The learning curve is, they study it, they try it, and they come up with problems and solve it. They go to forums, they read, they go to the recast, they go to the pages, they read forums, and they solve the problems. And that's how they have learned it. This is not like a follow a video or a follow tutorial step by step, and you click buttons and next, and it gets solved. It's not a software installation. This is information technology. You are installing web, you are creating program, and you are enabling things. So there will be problems, and you are the one who is setting things up, so there will be issues. So don't worry too much about them, just keep on trying. Don't forget to reach over to me. I want you to reach over to me on Telegram and tell me your progress personally, and see what is happening there and solve it. Send me screenshots and get it solved, guys. You must be able to create, read, update, and delete hotels, rooms, and customers by the end of week 4. I am going to make sure that everyone does that. Okay, guys, thank you very much. So let's see you in the class, and we discuss more during the class. Thank you very much.